On May 24, 1988, TACA Flight 110, a Boeing 737-300, was a routine commercial flight from Belize.
The aircraft, carrying 38 passengers and 7 crew members, was about to experience a terrifying ordeal that would make aviation history. This incident, which came to be known as one of the most miraculous emergency landings in aviation, was a tale of human determination, expert piloting, and split-second decision-making under life-threatening circumstances. The crew consisted of Captain Carlos Dardano, a seasoned pilot with over 13,000 flight hours, and his CEO pilot, Dionisio LPZ. Dardano had an impressive career in aviation and was known for his steady hand and calm under pressure, even more remarkable given the fact that he was flying with only one eye. The other eye had been lost during a conflict in his native El Salvador, but his skill, experience, and confidence made him a standout in the aviation community. LPZ, an equally experienced CEO pilot, complemented Dardano's calm demeanor with his own proficiency. The weather, however, was far from ideal. As the flight neared New Orleans, the aircraft began to encounter severe thunderstorms, common to the Gulf Coast region.
Thunderstorms in this area can be particularly violent, with intense downdrafts, turbulent air currents, and visibility challenges.
The storm that day was no exception.
Strong winds, heavy rain, and turbulent air surrounded the plane as the crew attempted to descend below the storm's most severe layers in search of clearer skies. At around 16,500 feet, something unexpected happened. Both engines of the Boeing 737 failed simultaneously, shutting down entirely.
This type of dual-engine failure is extremely rare in modern aviation, especially in a commercial jet like the Boeing 737, which is built to handle extreme conditions and is equipped with multiple redundancy systems.
The engines of commercial jetliners are designed to withstand a variety of conditions, including extreme weather and turbulence, so when both failed, it indicated something much more serious had occurred.
The cause was later identified as water ingestion. The aircraft had flown through a section of the storm that had produced a tremendous amount of rain.
The engines had sucked in so much water that they couldn't maintain power and had flamed out.
This was not a typical engine failure. As the pilots quickly realized, they were dealing with a much more complicated and potentially deadly issue. In the cockpit, the atmosphere shifted from one of routine operation to intense urgency. The cockpit alarms blared, signaling the loss of power.
Both engines had flamed out.
The crew followed emergency procedures and attempted to restart the engines. These procedures are standard in the event of an engine failure, but in this case, the conditions had rendered the engines completely inoperable. The aircraft was now a powerless glider, descending toward the ground with no engine thrust to maintain altitude. For the pilots, this wasn't just an emergency. This was a life and death scenario where every second counted. Their training kicked in as they quickly assessed their situation and options.
Captain Dardano, known for his calm under pressure, immediately began calculating their descent. Without engine power, the aircraft would descend rapidly. The rate of descent depended on the aircraft's glide ratio, which could be controlled to some degree with careful maneuvering. With the engines completely unresponsive, Dardano had to make an immediate decision: find a place to land, and fast.
There were no nearby airports that could accommodate an emergency landing, and the closest airstrip was too far for the plane to reach in its powerless state.
He had to find a flat, open area where he could attempt a landing without the benefit of engine power.
His eyes scanned the landscape below. Off to the right, Dardano noticed an area that seemed promising: a levee near the McCoud Assembly Facility, just east of New Orleans. It wasn't an airstrip, but it was a long, flat, open area that could provide enough space for an emergency landing. The levee was made of grass, a surface far from ideal, but given the circumstances, it was the best option available.
With no engine thrust to control the aircraft's glide, every detail of the descent had to be calculated with perfect precision.
As the aircraft continued its descent, Dardano maintained control, keeping the plane on course for the levee. Without engines, he had no ability to adjust the speed and was entirely at the mercy of the plane's aerodynamics. Any misjudgment in speed, descent rate, or glide path would have resulted in a disastrous crash.
At this point, the pilots were no longer controlling an aircraft in the traditional sense. They were working with the aircraft's glide characteristics, hoping to steer it to the levee in a controlled descent.
The crew also had to prepare the passengers for the emergency landing.
Flight attendants rushed to the back of the aircraft, ensuring that the passengers were secure, strapped in, and bracing for impact. There was no time for long explanations, just the frantic rush of securing the cabin.
In these moments, the flight attendants' training in emergency procedures became as crucial as the pilot's skills.
They ensured that every passenger understood the importance of the brace position and the necessity of staying calm during the chaotic moments ahead.
As the plane neared the levee, the tension inside the cockpit was palpable.
Dardano's hands gripped the controls tightly as he adjusted the angle of descent, ensuring the aircraft would land within the levee's bounds.
As the plane touched down, the landing gear absorbed the initial impact with the soft grass. The aircraft slid along the levee, but miraculously, it slowed down without flipping or crashing into nearby trees or obstacles. The plane finally came to a stop, just short of the canal that bordered the levee. The passengers, still in their brace positions, were shocked but unharmed.
Despite the terrifying ordeal, not a single person was injured.
The aircraft, though damaged, had survived the landing. The flight crew's decision-making and execution had been flawless, and it was only because of their expertise and quick thinking that the plane had come to rest without catastrophe.
After the aircraft had come to a halt, emergency responders arrived quickly on the scene. They rushed to evacuate the passengers, ensuring everyone was safe.
It wasn't long before news of the miraculous landing spread. The incident became an aviation legend, highlighting not just the skill of the flight crew, but also the durability of the Boeing 737, which would go on to fly many more miles after being repaired. In the days that followed, TACA Flight 110 became the subject of numerous investigations. The aircraft was inspected thoroughly, and it was determined that the engines had ingested so much water from the storm that they couldn't be restarted. It was an extremely rare form of engine failure that highlighted the importance of designing aircraft engines with redundancy and resilience to extreme weather conditions.
The incident also sparked conversations in aviation circles about training for emergency situations and the importance of remaining calm under pressure. Captain Dardano's ability to handle the situation, despite his physical limitations, became a topic of admiration and study. His calmness in the face of disaster had saved lives and set a new standard for emergency airmanship.
The level of training and preparedness demonstrated by the crew was acknowledged by the aviation community. Flight simulators and real-world scenarios for pilots became more intense, ensuring that pilots were ready for even the most extreme of circumstances. TACA Flight 110 remains a classic example of how proper training, experience, and unwavering calm can turn a life-threatening situation into a miracle.
The event left a lasting mark on aviation safety protocols, influencing how airlines and manufacturers approach aircraft design and pilot training.
The heroic actions of Captain Dardano and his team were immortalized in aviation history, forever remembered as a testament to the power of human resilience and skill. The story of TACA Flight 110 continues to inspire aviation professionals and enthusiasts alike. It serves as a reminder that even when all seems lost, the power of expert decision-making and calm under pressure can lead to extraordinary outcomes.
Captain Dardano, who had flown many challenging missions before, had proven that when lives are on the line, even a seemingly impossible situation can be overcome with the right combination of skill and determination.
The heroics of TACA Flight 110 remind us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, human ingenuity and courage can triumph.
Subscribe for more incredible stories of resilience and survival.